You know that feeling when your eyes are strained, the headaches start creeping in, and you keep putting off getting new glasses because the price is just brutal? Plenty of vets carry that same frustration, especially when life already feels like a pileup of appointments, bills, family needs, work demands, and other things like that. But there is a path to getting a new set of glasses. One that gets you solid eye care, real prescription that works with your eyes, and glasses that fit your face, all without taking a swing at your budget. This episode today walks through how VA eye care actually works, why so many veterans like myself never have heard about it, and how fast a turnaround time can be once you're in their system. Our guest today, Sean Lucen, leads a team at PDS Optical, the largest provider of prescription eyeglasses to VA patients. And he lays out what PDS, pride, dignity, and service look like when the mission that they are serving is taking care of veterans by the thousands every single day. So stick with this episode, take the benefit that you've already earned, and then pass it on to a buddy who still thinks that the VA can't help with something as basic as seeing clearly. But before we get into this episode, I want to take a moment to raise awareness for something that's deeply important to our community, the Global War on Terrorism Memorial Foundation. This organization is working to build a permanent national memorial in Washington, D.C. to honor the service members, families, and civilians who were impacted by the global war on terrorism. This memorial will serve as both a tribute to those who served and a way to ensure that their sacrifices are recognized and remembered for generations to come. If you'd like to learn more or find out how you can support their mission, visit gwatmemorialfoundation.org. Now let's get into today's episode. Hey, Sean, welcome to the show. Really glad to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me, Scott. I'm looking forward to it today.
Yeah, absolutely. For the listeners who maybe aren't familiar with you and your background, could you maybe just start things off by introducing yourself and share a bit about your journey through, the military into your current role, what you're doing now?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to. Sean Lucen. I'm currently the CEO of PDS Optical, and PDS Optical is the largest provider of prescription eyeglasses to our nation's veterans. And we're in 40 states, providing over 1.6 million prescription eyeglasses to our nation's veterans each and every year. And our the P, the D, and the S actually stand for pride, dignity, and service. Those are three of our core values as a company. And honored to be the CEO. It's a family company that my uncle Rich Murray started up 25 years ago. And then my father joined in, and it kind of grew slowly from one contract with the VA to many. We've got over 80% of the contracts out there right now. And we're proud to be, as a veteran myself, we're proud to be serving our veterans. And that's a little bit about PDS. And my just maybe quick or not, I don't know, we'll see here. Background is as I mentioned, I'm a veteran myself. I'm an Army person like yourself, infantry guy. And
Awesome.
yeah, it is awesome. And I grew up in a military family. Actually, my father served in Vietnam. Actually, unfortunately, lost his leg in Vietnam, but it never really set him back. He was alert with the 101st in Vietnam. And then my grandfather served in Korea. So I kind of grew up, in that military, mentality as a kid, playing Army and all that stuff. And then I'm originally from New Jersey. And I remember going up to West Point one year for a football game, either like eighth grade or freshman year. And I remember looking around the place and I'm like, what is this? Like, it kind of opened my eyes. I don't know have you ever been to West Point before, Scott?
I've been once, yeah,
Yeah.
and
So
it was while I was in the Army doing a training exercise there, and in the middle of the winter. So just you can probably imagine how fun that was.
winter's a tough time. Everything's very gray there and
Yeah.
white. So yeah, it's cold, windy. So this was during the fall when it's
Okay.
beautiful. And so I
Yeah.
remember looking around. I'm like, what is this place? How do I get in here? And I remember talking to my freshman year guidance counselor. I'm like, hey, I want to go to West Point. And unfortunately, I was not off to a hot start academically. And he's like, no, think of somewhere else. And so I kind of used it as a challenge and turned things around academically and went into West Point and then graduated in 2002 and, served as an infantry officer for 5 years, did, all sorts of infantry stuff, Ranger School, Airborne School, Air Assault School. I did a tour in Iraq, Mosul, Iraq, and back in '05, '06 during when the Iraqis were voting on their constitution. So I was platoon leader, executive officer. Really had a great time in the military. And it was kind of at a decision point in my military career where I had actually went to Special Forces selection and got selected. So I did the hard part, and I was at a crossroad. Like, do I continue on? And I did the whole pros cons list. That's another 5 years. The stability, and so I ultimately decided to get out and started working in insurance, actually in New York City, financial services for a great company called Unum, and was there for 15 years. And then this opportunity was presented to me as my father and Rich Murray, who I mentioned, were sort of looking to succession planning for PDS, and they got me involved as a consultant to kind of learn a little bit about the company. And the more I learned about it, I just was really impressed with the operations and everything and the
Mhm.
people. And then ultimately continued down that path and stepped in as an owner and a CEO back in March of 2022, I think it's been. So it's, time is flying here. So
Yeah,
that's,
yeah, time
yeah,
yeah, it seems like it. And the reason why I wanted to have you on is
yeah,
because when I first heard about your company and what you guys do and the contracts that you have with the VA, I said, "Hold up, you can get glasses from the VA?" And someone obviously who wears
yeah.
glasses,
I
this
was
was
going to
news
ask you
to me.
about that.
And that was something that when I heard about that, I was like, well, why where has this been? Why am I only just now hearing about this? I've
Yeah,
been, you know,
that's,
out of the army for almost 15 years now, and
yeah,
I feel like, why didn't I know this? And I gotta imagine there are plenty of veterans out there who just don't know that the VA has an eyewear kind of program,
yeah,
optical, any of that kind of stuff. So that was news to me, and so I wanted to hear a little bit obviously about you and your company, but
yeah,
kind of more importantly, what's the whole process look like on the VA side to kind of get those veterans into the program and get them, to get the prescriptions, get the glasses, get all the things from the VA side, as opposed to going to their local lens crafters or something other than going through the VA. I got to imagine there are some possibly even some hoops to jump through, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. Down the line we can kind of get into that a little bit, but I want to first off ask about your kind of transition from army into this corporate role. Obviously you went insurance first and then you got into what you're doing now, but what was in your mind, what was like the kind of the biggest change from the military side to the civilian side of things for you? What
yeah.
were there any kind of big surprises for you?
Definitely. Yeah, it's, coming from the military, it's a different sort of culture, a different, brotherhood. Those are terms, but they're actually, like when you're in it, esprit de corps, like you're fighting with your soldiers like day in and day out, and so like you share a certain bond, and so
Yeah.
it was different. Like I remember like stepping into the new role at where I was back in 2007. I'm like, just looking around, it was different kind of people and good people, but it was just different, right? So it was a change, and
Hmm.
that's normal, like for any type of change, and getting used to that. And I remember looking back, I'm like, did I make the right decision here of getting out of the military? But I think it's just normal, like changing
Yeah.
from like it's totally different. Like the military, the army organization, there's good and bad everywhere, but like I had a good units, thankfully, and so I just remember stepping out of the into the corporate civilian world, and it being a different shock. And so it took
Hmm.
some time for me to get used to that. But thankfully, like there were great people there that helped me. And eventually I, settled into, from sales roles into leadership roles there where I can kind of influence things and kind of influence and impart some of the leadership principles and stuff that I learned. And you kind of get your feet under you. But I
Sure.
definitely, that's a great question. Like I remember looking back on that, like I'm like, wow, like did I make the right decision in getting out? Like I could be, and getting my butt kicked and probably, the Q course and special forces, all that.
Right.
But like, anyway, so here I am today, and I don't look back with any regrets though.
Oh, that's awesome because, I asked the question because a lot of times veterans will get out really not having a plan of
Yeah,
what's next for me, and they do the shotgun approach of applying to every job that's imaginable, and they end up getting a job that they absolutely hate, and then
yeah,
they're looking back, kind of like what you were just talking about. They look back and say, "Man, did I actually make the right decision? I kind of wish I was back there." Yeah, sure.
yeah,
Back then, there there were the things that sucked and I really hated about being in the military, but there was also the stuff that I really loved. The camaraderie, maybe the mission that you had, maybe the
yeah,
sense of purpose and pride and everything that you had in your unit, or whatever. And so there's a lot of times there's those kind of regrets that people have going into that civilian role. So it's just, I always like to ask those types of questions just to see how
yeah.
that transition was for the guests that I'm talking to, because every now and again it's just like, I had a great experience in this transition, or the opposite. I had it was absolutely terrible. And
Yeah,
I like to hear it all because it gives some perspective to some folks of, like,
yeah.
if you had a great experience, okay, well, what did this guy do to have that great experience? And maybe I can kind of match that up too. And so it's just interesting to hear that.
Yeah, it's I got lucky. I started in New York City working there, and then I ended up moving up to Rochester, New York, where I am now. And the Rochester, New York was a smaller kind of feel to it there, and so maybe that move helped. And I got lucky too. Like I was, the company I worked for was incredible. Was there for 15 years. Great mission. We're providing insurance and protection for benefits for, and so it was fun. Great people around you. So sometimes you just get lucky too. But I definitely do remember like early on in New York City and traveling in, because I was still commuting from Jersey there, and
Mm.
it was an adjustment. But yeah, you know,
Yeah, yeah, that certainly can be an adjustment. I know just some travel that I've done to New York City,
yeah,
and coming from the areas that I grew up in, and
yeah,
where I live now, it's just a totally different world. It's so
oh yeah,
busy, so vibrant. Everything is constantly moving, and
oh
and
yeah,
it's just a different way of life. So let's talk about PDS. You said pride, dignity, and in service is what the name of the company stands for,
yeah,
and I'd like to know about the company itself, and kind of like how you guys kind of incorporate those values into day-to-day life in the business, on whether it's on the shop floor, if that's the
yeah.
right term for what you
Well,
guys
that's great.
do, and
You know,
dealing with the customers and all that kind of stuff.
yeah, excellent question. So I'm a big always, I'm a mission first, people always sort of mentality there as a leader. And so like, I'm always trying to drive across our mission to our employees and our team. So I'll just like, I'm like a robot sometimes. I like just kind of get it in there, providing high quality, affordable eyewear for our nation's veterans, just reminding our team of what we're doing. So you just constantly try to remind our folks of like what we're doing each and every day.
Mhm.
We're making a lot of prescription eyeglasses. We're making over 7,000 plus eyeglasses every single day in our labs. And
Oh,
so
wow.
and so just to step back too, we have shop floor it's an optical lab is what we kind of call it there. And so we have two labs, one in Louisville, Kentucky, and then one in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So we've got 680 people working for us. We've got people making the eyeglasses, and then we also have opticians that are I like to call them our boots on the ground. They're the ones that are talking to the veterans each and every day in the local VA hospitals. As I mentioned, we're in 40 different states. And so they're in the cities there where veterans come in, thanking them for their service. Like our employees are great. Like they
Mhm.
they are, a lot of them are, family members were veterans, and so they really are, serving those that are very close to them there too. So we're trying to always remind our folks of like what the mission is, and taking care of our veterans each and every day when we're either making the glasses or serving the veterans coming into the eyeglass locations there all throughout the country.
So you actually have the opticians in the actual VA facilities around the country. Is that
Yes.
what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So
So it's not like a VA employee who's working directly with the veteran, or is that, how does that work?
Good question. So it's so for the most part, we have the opticians that work for us. Some locations, actually, the VA that I go to here locally it's a VA optician that works for us. So it's,
Okay.
the one thing is like, each VA is kind of different in how they operate. There is potential some changes that are coming out about, uniformity and all that, but some locations are VA employees, and so some are opticians working there. We have about 300 opticians working for us currently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. And so I want to talk about the process that a veteran goes through to go from walking into the VA. Maybe they're already seeing a provider there for their primary care, and maybe
Yeah.
they have other health related issues or mental health or things like that. So they're already set up in the VA system. Not to necessarily go into how to get set up in the VA system. That's a whole nother conversation probably. But
Yeah.
someone who goes in and wants to get started with getting their eye care through the VA, what does that process look like? And what's kind of the first steps that they need to go through?
Great question. So you kind of teased that earlier with your question there too, of like the misperception really of like, hey, like I can get free eyeglasses, like, and so like the big thing is like as long as a veteran has some type of service connection disability, which unfortunately a lot, I know a lot of my veterans that I'm friends with have that because
Mhm.
of just, various, war or whatever, like things that we've been exposed to, even the PACT Act there too, like with the burn pit exposures there, like
Mhm.
that opens up. I recently wrote an article for Stars and Stripes about how the PACT Act, I think, opened up about 1 million more veterans receiving some type of service connection disability. And then so, taking it further about this is like based on like the Vision Council, about 60% of the population wears some type of eyeglasses. So, you would think about another 600,000 veterans would be eligible for free eye care through the VA. So the first trigger is if you have some type of service connection disability, you can go into the VA. Hopefully you're receiving care through the VA, whether it's for your primary or other benefits. And then you go in you schedule an appointment. You'll go down and meet with an optometrist, and those are the ones that examine your eyes, and then they'll give you the prescription. They'll push you down to the eye shop there where our opticians are, and they'll help you fit you with some glasses that are good for you based on your shape of your face and all those types of things there too. So again, it's something that like a lot of veterans don't know that they qualify for this benefit, and it's an earned benefit based on the sacrifices our veterans have made for our country there too.
So is it pretty much like any service connection
Yeah.
whatsoever? Is there a certain percentage level that you're talking about?
From what I understand, it's like any percentage qualifies for,
Okay.
yeah. So if you have any type of service connection disability, again, which unfortunately, like a lot of our veterans do, like, that's
Yeah.
not a great thing, but it's just the reality of the things that we've faced, been exposed to, et cetera, over our, time in service there too. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting because there's a lot of benefits that you get at certain
Yeah.
levels of disability
Right.
where after 30% you get something else, and after different percentages you get other types of things. It's kind of like a
Yeah.
like leveling up in
Right.
a video game almost. It's like you
Right.
get something else after you get to a certain percentage. Not that I'm making light of it, but not that it's not a serious situation for a lot of us dealing with whatever disabilities that you're having. But that's just one of those things that was never even mentioned to me, or if it was,
Yeah.
I totally missed it. And so I can't imagine that I'm the only one who missed it. So that was why, like I said at the beginning, why I wanted to have you on, because this is such a huge benefit. I know for myself, just going to the local place to get my eyes,
Yeah.
not just the appointment to get my eyes checked, but then the glasses itself and the prescription and all that stuff. It's super expensive,
Yeah.
and that's a benefit that's available to us. And if you can get that at a much more affordable rate, or
Yeah.
even potentially free, that could be a huge impact on a lot of folks who might even be in a financial position where they just forego getting glasses because they
Right.
can't afford it, because it's just that
Yeah.
expensive. And, you know, that obviously you don't want people, injuring their vision or anything like that because they're straining their eyes, or now
Right.
they're getting headaches and they're having all sorts of other conditions because
Yeah.
they're not getting the care that they need. But this is available to them, and like you said, an extra 600,000 some odd veterans probably are eligible just from the PACT Act alone.
Yeah.
And there's, I mean, out of the whatever it is, 19 million veterans that are out there, like,
Yeah.
it's not an insignificant number of people who are eligible for glasses. So, um,
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember like stepping into this role, like, and I'm like, I don't think a lot of like, again, like my friends that are veterans, they didn't know about this. So like, it's about
right.
education and awareness there too. So like, again, it's an earned benefit. Like Scott, you've earned that like through your, sacrifices and things you've done for our country. And so I encourage you. Unfortunately, we don't have Arizona. That's not our contract there, but
Oh, okay.
you can go in there. They'll take care of you there too. So yeah.
Sure. So, I mean, eh, if you think about just the numbers that you said, I think you said like 7,000 glasses a day that you
Yeah.
guys make. Is that
Plus
correct?
more, sometimes more, like sometimes like 8,000 plus, it all depends on the
Sure.
volume of like veterans coming in all throughout the country there too. So yeah,
Right. So that's probably, just quick math. That's probably like 2.5 million glasses that you're making a year.
not that
Um,
much. No, it's
yeah.
like 1.7 or so, I think is
Oh,
where,
okay.
yeah.
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 I'm probably going off a full year.
You did.
Just
Yeah. Usually
yeah.
250 days is like the working day calendar. Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Sure. So that, yeah. So maybe I overestimated a little bit there, but still,
someday maybe. Yeah.
that's millions. That's
Yeah.
over a million glasses a year that you guys are creating out there. And i
Yeah.
I gotta imagine there's even more people who just don't even know that this is a thing, and the demand is there. I'm sure it's just not
Right.
being utilized because people just aren't aware of it. And that's
Yeah.
honestly part of the reason why I started this podcast, for two main reasons. One is to share stories of other
Mhm.
veterans who maybe have kind of been through hell and got through and could serve as a source
Yeah.
of inspiration or hope for somebody, but also to let people know about the resources that are available
Yeah.
to veterans, whether it's nonprofits or other organizations, or things like this, like through the VA, getting prescription eyewear. That is a huge benefit that a lot of people just don't know about,
Yeah.
and it's crazy to me that it just doesn't get advertised. Not, I don't want to say advertised like they need television commercials or anything like that,
No.
but
Yeah.
you would think that, as a veteran with a service connection, and you go into your primary care provider at the VA, and you go in, you're wearing glasses,
Right.
it would be a thing that they should probably just mention. Hey, did you know that you can get your glasses through the VA?
That's a great point.
Um,
Yeah. Like, so hopefully, like like your audience here, like if anything, like we're saying here, like, it's just a conversation between two infantry guys here. So,
right.
but like if they take that away, like that's a success, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
two infantry guys. I mean, we're not going to come up with
No.
the most elegant solution to a problem, but
No.
we can figure something out, right?
Right.
And we'll get the ball rolling at least. So,
No. Use your
um,
use your voice and your platform here to like help fellow veterans here. So thank you for bringing that up.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So the VA, they talk about how the eyeglass prescriptions generally need to come from the VA care, VA
Yeah.
authorized community care, because they have that option too. Are there any mistakes that you see veterans making when they try to go get the glasses, and what they should do to ask the VA to get the help, or avoid delays anyways in the whole process? Are there any things that people are doing other than just not going to the VA at all and going someplace else like I've been doing?
That's it. No, I think from my perspective as the CEO of PDS, and we're making a lot of prescription. I like so like, and just stepping back too, like everybody's vision is unique to themselves. So like we're making seven. Like it's not like a widget we're making either too. So like
Yeah.
that's those are unique. Some people have different left eye, right eye vision, all sorts of different. So in terms of mistakes, I don't think so. Like I think once you're in there, you're meeting with the optometrist, you're meeting with the optician. It's a pretty smooth process. Like we're getting those eyeglasses out to veterans within a week or so, like or
Oh, that's
sometimes
great.
less usually. Yeah, yeah, like I'll go to my local VA and get the eyeglasses, and it's sort of like the undercover boss, like I'm like the going in, and our Florida lab will make my eyeglasses, And last year I went on Monday, and I think I got my glasses within like by the following Monday there too. So like, 5 business days that is right there. Really
Right.
not if you count, like I don't know when I went in on Monday. So it's a pretty smooth dialed in process there. And you mentioned community care just to like, so we're separate. We do some eyeglasses for community care, but that's sort of different. It's sort of like a private, and community care is a great service there too, because, that's more for veterans that are not local to a VA. Like if you got to travel a long way to go, like in some rural places like a Montana or somewhere where there's
Yeah.
not a lot of VA locations, like it's a great spot to go and get, your eye care done at a local community care approved place there too. So it's a little bit separate from us, but we do some community care prescription eyeglasses in some different areas there too. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's just a great option, like you said, for
yeah,
folks who are in those remote areas, and there's just not a VA facility that they don't have to drive for hours to get
yeah.
to, and you know, or even if just the wait time at a VA is just
It
too
could be
long.
like that. Yeah. I
Yeah,
like for me, like I'm working on a dental implant here. And so I luckily qualify for dental coverage through the VA. And that goes to your tiers of like, whatever, you got to have a certain level of disability for dental coverage.
yep,
And I was working through the VA and I missed an appointment just because of a work conflict. And then it just kind of got pushed out several months just because of wait times. And I was like, hey, this is, kind of inconvenient. Can I try to get in sooner, maybe through community care and
yeah.
approved? And then I'm kind of still on the process there. I don't know if you've had a dental implant before. It takes a long time, but I've been
No,
missing
I
a
haven't
tooth for
I
a
haven't
long
had that.
time here.
But I've dealt with the community care, the whole system, and it's great because there
Yeah.
were some things that it was like through the VA, they were like, "Oh, yeah, we have an appointment for you," and it was, we're talking to them in January, but they're like, "Yeah, the appointment won't be until June or something," and it's like,
Yeah.
"Well, that's ridiculous."
Yeah.
So then
No.
they get you in to somebody else, and it's within, a week or 2 or something like that, and so
Yeah.
it's pretty quick. So and
Yeah.
and not every single situation is going to be exactly like that. That was just my experience. So I'm a big fan of the community care network because of a lot of the wait times that you might end up having sometimes
Yeah.
at VAs, or just the long distances that some folks need to go. So
Yeah.
that's why I like to kind of bring that up too, because again, some people aren't even aware that community care is a thing. Even if it's kind
Yeah.
of a newer thing, it's not something that's been around for that long, or it may have been. It's just not as wasn't as popular back then. But
Yeah.
it's a thing that's
It's being
more in
pushed.
use now, and it's
Yeah.
being pushed to really make sure that everyone's getting the care that they need, and not
Yep.
just sweeping things under the rug. So it's
Yeah.
great. And I know, so PDS has also done some other stuff to kind of promote veterans and kind of help veterans out,
Yep.
partnering with the Honor Flight Network too, right? Is that
Yeah.
something that you guys have done? So
Yeah.
so
Go
it's
ahead.
more than just glasses, it's more than just, taking care of the eye care. It's really looking after veterans, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we were like, we're proud of what we do. Our team, our people are proud of what we do for veterans. And so we're like trying to think about like ways we can kind of give back. And so we looked at some other veteran organizations out there, and Honor Flight was one that came like resoundingly at the top there from our employees. We actually pulled our employees and surveyed them and said, hey, what are some organizations we'd like to link up? We should look into linking up with. And we looked into it further, and we did something called a Lone Eagle Honor Flight sponsorship. And so what we did was we sponsored about 50 veterans from all across the country, like Hawaii and Washington and all over, and had them fly into Washington D.C. last year. And I'm stealing this from the CEO of Honor Flight. It's the Honor Flight allergies, like that they call it there. So like when you're there, it's very emotional just seeing the veterans from we had 2 veterans from World War II there actually, that actually grew up a couple blocks from each other in Brooklyn, New York. Didn't know each other, but they were a couple blocks from each other there. And we had Korean War veterans, Vietnam War veterans. And so just seeing how these veterans are treated and with interacting with each other, it's a very powerful, very emotional experience there too. and we were very proud and honored and just happy with sponsoring that there too. And that's we're going to continue to do that going forward as an organization, and we're always looking for ways to give back too, of
Excellent.
how we can support other veteran organizations out there too. So that's something that we're happy to do.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring that up too because it's not just a glasses company or I optical or and it's not just that. You guys are more than that because of what those kind of extra things that you guys do. You actually are out there supporting veterans and doing it in a way that's not financially motivated or anything. It's like truly you want to give back, you want to help these folks, you want to show your appreciation and support and all that kind of stuff. And so I wanted to highlight that because for the listeners, hearing about a company, a lot of times people are like, oh yeah, well they're just they're in it for
Yeah.
themselves and all that kind of stuff, but that's not this company. This is
No,
um
it was a cool experience for me too. Like I got
yeah.
up and said some words to everybody. We had like a dinner before the night before, and you're just hanging out, like talking to these veterans, and it was great. Like I'm talking to a Korean War veteran from Minnesota, and I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan. Like that's a whole nother story, tortured, but we're talking about that, and he's telling me about his fishing stories, and he's wearing eyeglasses, and I'm like, where'd you? So we made those eyeglasses for him too,
Oh,
and
great.
so it was just, yes, like you said, it's more than just trying to make a profit and whatever. And again, like as a veteran myself, we're proud of our company, we're proud of our mission, and when you can see the things we're doing for our veterans out there, it just makes it even more impactful. And we had
Right.
a lot of our employees actually participate too as sponsors and guests there for veterans that didn't have veterans that were there. And so it was just a great event. And as I mentioned, we're going to continue to do that, and then look for other ways too, like that we can kind of give back. We do things locally too, like ruck events and running events and stuff like that in the Louisville area or the Fort Lauderdale area. And so it's, yeah, again, if we're always open to ideas on how we can support other veteran initiatives out there.
That's excellent. Yeah, and like I said, it's more than just an eyewear company. It's a company that's really truly focused and dedicated to helping and supporting veterans,
Yeah.
and that's in addition to raising awareness for the fact that you can get glasses through the VA. That's why I wanted to have you guys on, to really talk about the company and kind of kind of boost you guys up a little bit because I really do appreciate the mission that you guys have. The you guys really do live the values from the name of your company. That those things are not just a slogan. Pride, dignity, and service. Those things are really a part of who you guys are. So I wanted to
Yeah.
highlight that and support that as much as I can. So before we wrap up, I want to just go back to kind of a maybe more a transition kind of question here for you for folks who are transitioning out of the service and they want that sense of purpose. Obviously, a paycheck is important, but they also want a team that they can trust. Obviously, you just got done talking about your team and how much support they give to veterans and things like that. If someone's looking to get into some sort of manufacturing or those types of operations, what roles at a place like PDS are a good like entry point for some veterans who might be transitioning out, and how can they kind of translate that military experience into the hiring managers will be able to recognize and respect on that end.
Excellent question. Yeah, we're always looking to hire veterans just because we that's part of our company culture. That's our customer there, and then just me as a veteran, I just know the things that veterans have seen and done, and just the hard work, motivation that veterans bring to the table. So we've I'm looking like we've got our current maintenance manager in our Kentucky lab is a former Army guy too, and so he started in the lab there and worked his way up into a maintenance management position there too. Our current director of accounting started in like data entry and then worked her way all through the different positions within the lab. So there's definitely there's not a really like direct path to where where you're going to go. I think you could step into our company, learn a little bit about of each area, And then, there's a lot of ways for you to move around and help with our mission of providing high quality, affordable eyewear for our nation's veterans. So
Yeah.
again, I always looking to hire veterans. So if there are veterans in, the Louisville, Kentucky area or Fort Lauderdale area that are listening to this, please reach out to myself. I'm on LinkedIn. I think, Scott, you're going to share some of my contact info too. And
Oh
so
yeah.
we can get you connected in, and love to even just have a conversation with a veteran, just, transitioning too, like, and, how I can help you too. Like, you heard my story. I was started off in insurance, and now I'm here in, optical manufacturing here too. So,
Yeah,
we all,
and even yourself, you said you started off in this
yeah,
company as kind of a consultant too, so it wasn't
yeah,
like you just stepped into the CEO role and just
no,
started day one, hitting the ground running. It was
yeah,
you kind of worked up to kind of learn the business and all that kind of stuff too.
oh
So,
yeah,
I think from a realistic perspective for anyone who's transitioning out, whether it's working in a company like PDS or any other company, just understanding that there might be little bit of a learning curve that you're going to need to kind of
yeah,
learn a little bit about the business, a little bit about the job and all that kind of stuff before you can really kind of move up and advance. But knowing that you can go into it with a little humility and not expect that you're going to be the
right,
top dog at the very get-go, you know that's okay, and it's kind of expected. So that's great advice. And hopefully a lot of folks, especially in the Kentucky and Florida areas, if they're looking for that type of job, they can reach out and
yeah,
see if there's any positions open for you guys. But it's good, just general advice as well. but
absolutely,
but like you said, I will have links. I'll have a link to your website, the PDS Optical website, as well as your link on LinkedIn, and I'll try to grab a link for the VA, the optical program through the
yeah,
VA if they have that information online. I'll have to dig that up, and I'll try to throw that in there too for the listeners, so
yeah,
they don't have to go struggle trying to figure that out. But it's definitely a great program, great opportunity for a lot of veterans who are in need of eyewear and just don't know where to turn. If they're financially maybe a little bit struggling, this is just one of those, like you said, an earned benefit. You're not taking it away from somebody else just because you're going
no,
and getting it. So you earned it, you deserve it. So go out there and get it. So thank you so much for coming on the show and
thank you.
sharing your story, sharing PDS and all the things that you guys are doing. It's a great organization and a great opportunity for a lot of veterans. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Scott. This was fun. A great conversation here, just amongst two Army infantry guys here. So this was fun.
Absolutely. It's always fun to have another grunt
Yeah,
on the show.
yeah.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.